feel when your numbers go up and they hear you. They start following your message cause they feel you. Haters in the rear view wanna ruin plans. Don't be startled, they just low-key fans. They tight like bands on a fresh stack. Knowing Rolo runs the city, bringing hip-hop back for the 51st year with my loquacious bands. Now this ain't no love.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rolo Runs the City podcast. I am your host, Rolo, and I am glad to be back with you today for another episode of this great podcast that we are putting out to the world. And I just wanted to say thank you so much. I greatly do appreciate everybody checking me out, checking out my shorts, checking out my full-length videos, checking out my music. Greatly do appreciate that you guys are checking all things Rolo. I greatly do appreciate it, man. I am such in gratitude mode right now because the response that I'm getting from my videos are absolutely amazing, and I'm greatly appreciative of it. So without further ado, we're going to start this show off. But first, of course, we must put our socials out there. FB, IG, at Rolo Runs the City Podcast, as well as Rolo Runs the City Music. Also, check me out on X at Rolo Runs the City. And don't forget, man, you can definitely check me out on all streaming platforms, wherever you get your podcasts or your music. I am there. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing going. Oh, yeah, don't forget, RoloRunsTheCity.com. All things Rolo. Definitely hit me up on that, too. But this show is absolutely so important because, of course, we've been talking the last couple of weeks about, the mindset changes and the things that we're doing to rewire, to change our own lives. And this was just right along that alley. So I was like, let's go ahead and keep this thing going, So the name of this episode is The Compound Effect of Consistency. And I thought this was a really great topic to pick because people don't realize the compounding efforts that, or the lack thereof, that you make in life really determines your road. So with that being said, you have to think about someone who decides to take the positive steps towards the right direction. You're not always going to, how am I going to say this? I guess maybe thinking about success being linear. I don't believe success is linear, but I do believe in putting your best foot forward and always trying to move forward. No matter how far you get, pushed back, you have to think about, okay, be cognitively aware of what is actually going on and say, okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and just keep pushing through. I know this seems very boneheaded of me. I know this seems like I'm a brute, like I'm dumb, but I'm going to go with this ignorance anyway because I believe in my cause. And I think that's an absolutely important mindset to have in all endeavors in life. A lot of times you're going to be criticized. A lot of times you're going to be judged. A lot of times they're just going to hate on you, whatever. With that being said, sir, ma'am, always keep pushing away, plugging away, pushing forward. Now, you could also go to the other side of the spectrum and just lack. Like I always say, indecision is a decision. That's just a decision that's not been made. And with that whole thing occurring of paralysis by analysis, you just say, well, you know what? I don't know if I want to do that because you're scared of losing or scared of failing. And you just decide not to make a move. And those decisions also compound over time as well. It could be not deciding to change your lifestyle and say, I'm going to adopt a new diet. Diets seem to be very temporary. But of course, lifestyle is forever, right? And a lot of people, what they decide not to do is they say, oh, well, I'll start Monday. I'll start Monday. Several Mondays pass by. They never do what they're supposed to do. I've never believed in that notion of I'll start Monday. I always thought about, okay, I'm starting tomorrow, day one. Day one could be a Wednesday or a Thursday, whatever. Doesn't matter. The whole point is you keep on waiting on Mondays. Enough Mondays are going to pass by, and next thing you know, you're no longer going to be here for the Monday that you were supposed to execute on because you got way more Mondays behind you than you do ahead of you. Unfortunately, that's the sad reality for many people. But I definitely wanted to just talk about this compound effect of consistency. If you notice, everyone wants results ASAP, right? But little imperfect moves move the needle, not the perfect big moves that you do once in a while. So I see that there's a lot of people where they're like, okay, I'm going to get on this health journey or whatnot, right? And they hit the gym for like, I'm giving them too much credit if I say 2 weeks. They'll hit the gym for like maybe 3 or 4 days. They don't see anything happening in the mirror. Not knowing that how they got to the point that they're in physically didn't happen overnight. So when you're trying to reach this level of consistency and wanting to build yourself back up, just like you look like crap now and it didn't happen overnight, is the same way that you're going toward the opposite direction of that spectrum and saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put myself through the ringer so then that way I can better myself, my health, my body, make myself stronger, look a lot better, whatever your reason is. And a lot of folks, what they'll do is they'll end up working out for about 3 or 4 days. They see nothing, they stop. And I think that's one of the most detrimental things that you can actually do, because results don't reap overnight. Like I said, you got fat over years. You got seriously unhealthy. Your blood work sucks. Like, it happened over years. Cheeseburger after cheeseburger after pizza after whatever the hell you ate. It's just the sad reality. So in order for you to actually get to that next level, it's going to take you some time. Just like it took you time when you were shoving all that stuff down your pie hole, it's going to be the same scenario. So you have to make sure that you have that same level of patience, because believe it or not, you are being patient. You are patiently getting fat. Now you need to patiently wait till you get back in shape. You can't quit the gym because you don't see results after 3 or 4 days. You're not going to see results more than likely after 3 or 4 weeks. And if, depending on what your situation looks like, you're probably not going to see any results after 3 or 4 months, but things are working in the background. Like I always say all the time, I always try to put my best foot forward. I try to sow good seeds. I always say, hey, God's doing the work in the background. But at the end of the day, I understand that if I don't work and do what I need to do, then how am I going to expect my blessings to actually occur? They're not going to, because I believe it was, I forgot what it was in the scripture, but I believe it was faith without works is dead, which is absolutely true. It's like you can't pray for a car and you're not willing to put in the work to buy one. Like you're like, oh, it's somebody's just going to bless me. It's not how it works. You have to really put your best foot forward. So I think with a lot of people, especially when it comes to the aspect of health, they don't understand that they got themselves in a crappy situation. Then they could definitely get themselves out of it. And we talked about this in the last episode. If you got yourself into something, then you can definitely get yourself out of something. There's a lot of times where people end up in situations that they can't help because they didn't put themselves in that situation. That's understandable. You know, I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but there's validity to it. But if you put yourself in that situation, then you could damn sure get yourself out of it. So take that with what you will. But when I was in the military, you know, I definitely learned a lot about consistency. Running, of course, I learned a lot about consistency. Yeah, even doing my music, I learned a lot about consistency. And I thought the thing that was most important with me and all these entities is that I noticed that whenever I was pounding the pavement and racking up the miles, I noticed that I was gaining strength and stamina to actually go ahead and be able to run a marathon. A lot of people, they think that you're just going to wake up and run a marathon. dude, you're gonna wake up and pull a damn muscle if you don't put the work in prior. Like, you just don't wake up and start doing that. Like, it's not an easy task. Not saying that not everybody can do it. I think everybody can do it. They just don't have the belief in themselves to actually get it done. But that's a mindset conversation. I guess we could say for today, another day, whatever we want to say. But the thing is, you got to get yourself together. When I was in the military, just basically doing everything that I needed to do as a soldier, doing my task, my mission, my job. It required a lot of compounding focus. If you want to get promoted, you want to make more money, you got to do a little bit more. That's just the nature of the beast. But to actually to stay stagnant and not putting any effort at all is obviously the opposite of what we're talking about. That's the non-consistency, and that's where a lot of people are actually suffering today. So then, of course, I always look at my music aspect as well, where if I'm putting together some material, so if I'm putting together, like, I've been releasing like singles lately, but back in the day, long time ago, under another moniker, I used to just crank out like mixtapes like non-stop. And these mixtapes will range anywhere from 14 to 28, 29 tracks. That's just what we did back in the day. Like, now people release singles. Like, I've released singles like the past couple of years. I haven't put out an album, but I'm actually putting together an album. But the point that I'm trying to get at is when you're plugging away, like I'll, plug away during a session while I'm doing music, and I start noticing all the material that I'm racking up, and I'm like, man, I got about 5 or 6 songs done already. And I can actually get stuff done like that within, and anybody who knows me that's done music with me knows that I can get done about 5 or 6 songs within like one night, like just done. Like, talking about recorded, cleaned up, mixed, mastered, like to perfection. And that comes attributed to being consistent and knowing that that compounding effort is going to pay dividends later on down the line. That's just an example there. But like I said, I remember when I was in the military, whenever we had a mission to do, it would be like, hey, make sure our gears are straight, make sure everybody understands we've got to meet up at 22:30. This is what needs to get done. 22:30 for my civilian folks, that's 10:30 p.m. This is what needs to get done. We've got to be on the flight line over here because we have a unit coming in, because, I work the unit moves. And you had to make sure that you were on top of your job. So if you didn't do that, then you would just be in a world of hurt, and you were compounding the other way. You would just straight up dragging ass, and at that point, you would have leadership that would lose faith in you, and whatever position you were in, especially if you were in a position of leadership, your higher ups will look at you and say that this person's not ready for what's about to come. So that could stop you from getting promoted. Depending on how much of a detriment you are to the mission, you could possibly get demoted. People get in trouble. People don't understand at the end of the day where a lot of people have civilian jobs and they're moving product, supply, retail, whatever. Like, we're dealing with human lives, so there's no room for error. But that's just another sense of compounding. You want to put a great compounding effort, and at the end of the day, you're trying to compound your reliability. You're like compounding your character. And I thought that was something that was very important to me. Like, I always say all the time, hey, my word is my bond. If I got my name attached to whatever it is, you know that it's going to be A1, top notch, end of story. But anywho, this is just, things that we're talking about. Every mile, every rep, every, session making music is just like building interest in investments. obviously you guys already know if you're into like saving money, you're not going to make much money off of saving money. I mean, you'll have some liquid cash, but it's not really growing, right? So with that being said, let's just say if I didn't add up my miles, I wouldn't be able to run a far distance. If I just limited my reps and I wasn't consistent with my reps on whatever it is, whether if I'm hitting the bench or if I'm doing curls, whatever, right? Or good mornings, whatever I'm doing. If I'm not putting together a consistent compounding effort every day, I can't expect to get stronger. I can't expect to build stamina. And it's just going to leave me in a world of hurt and possibly get injured, right? Same thing hitting the studio. If I'm talking about putting together an album, and I'm like, I want to put together an album. Right now, a lot of people that put together like a 10, 12 track album, whatever, right? Some people put out EPs, cool, Like, oh, I want to put out an album. And then you got like 2 songs recorded. Like, that's not an album. You know what I'm saying? Like the 2 singles, if you want, you could release them separately, but that's not an album. So, like I said, all of those efforts, they need to compound. And they can compound with the right mindset of just knocking it out. To be honest with you, a lot of things that get done whenever you start putting this stuff on autopilot, and I'm not talking about living in autopilot, like not paying attention to life. I'm talking about like, okay, this is stuff that needs to get done. You compartmentalize at this point, and you're like, I don't need to put any brain work to it. We made our list. We're just going through it. And if you actually do that with many aspects and areas of your life, you would see how far that you would go effortlessly without even thinking about it. You're like, damn, I knocked all this out. So it's absolutely a great thing to just start doing. Think about the compounding effort that it takes to get something done. Once you start applying these tools, trust what I tell you, your life it'll be a game changer. It really will. You guys know about me. I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, man. That way I'm kicking the rooster in the ass. So then that way I could get my day jump started, because if I don't run the day's going to run me. And we already talked about that last time. So if you want, feel free to check out that video. Like I said, daily habits that rewired my life. It is what it is. It's on there. It's on the YouTube. It's on Amazon Music. It's everywhere. Feel free to check it out. But anywho, and I say this with a lot of passion. Like, the hell with occasional massive effort. Small action is where it's at. Small imperfect action is where it's at. Everybody's waiting for the perfect plan. Like, oh man, once I got this great plan in play, like, when everything's right, when the planets align and the sky's clear and there's no rain and the grass is not growing so much. And nah, dude, like, we're not worrying about all that. You have to make sure that you execute. It does not matter if it is a rainy day and it is muddy and your shoes and your socks are going to get wet. Dude, don't get trench foot. Change your damn socks. Keep on trucking. That's what needs to get done. You have to make imperfect movement if you want to make any movement at all. If you're waiting for the perfect time, the perfect shot is just not going to happen. If a hunter's out there and he's waiting for that, this is for my hunting folks, you know what I'm saying? If he's out there, he's like, oh, I'm waiting for that 12-pointer. That's like, a big old rack antlers on the deer, like a 12-point, a 12-pointer is that's a trophy for real, right? But dude, if you see an 8-pointer go by, you're not gonna let him go by because he's not a 12-pointer. Like, dude, you have to make that imperfect movement. So then that way you could possibly luck up and get that 12-pointer, but you're not gonna go home empty-handed because of the fact that you just wanted to get the 12-pointer. You let all these 8-pointers go by. You're not gonna do that. So that's just for my hunting folks out here. Man, you know how we do in Georgia, man. We hunt. That's what it is, right? But anywho, I think a great thing to do, of course, is to track your progress, journal, record, because I'm going to tell you like this. Life is driven by analytics. And it's been driven by analytics now more than ever, whether if you're paying attention to your numbers, if you have businesses that are, doing commerce on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Everything is driven by numbers. YouTube, if you're looking at analytics, driven by numbers. If you're looking on your podcasting analytics, like I said, everything is driven by numbers. And not to mention, your health is driven by numbers. Now more than ever, especially when I go to a start line, which I haven't been to a start line since March. Folks, it's been wild. It's been a long while, to be honest with you. I don't mean to get off topic, but man, it's been a long while. I have not been behind the start line to get ready to run since March. That's a long time. So, Rolo normally just like runs the city, right? But I've really just been running my damn mouth for these past 6 months. But anyway, I just want to say, man, can't wait to get back, man. I'm, doing everything I can to recover so that way, hopefully by the end of this year, I could get me at least a 5K, man. So that way I can feel a little good about that again. But anyway, I'm sorry. Where was I? Oh yeah, analytics. It truly is though. Whenever we're at the start line, what is everybody doing? Everybody puts up their arm, whether they got their Strava, Garmin, Amazfit, Fitbit, whatever they have going on with their smartwatch, Apple Watch, whatever. I'm not promoting any products. I'm just giving examples here. Everybody hits that start because they are tracking their progress on how long they are going to run and in reference to their distance and how fast can they cover it. You know what I mean? So everything truly is being tracked by analytics. You're like, okay, man, I'm at 178 BPMs. I'm feeling really good right now. You know what I mean? And which that's not a bad heart rate. Well, depending on what your age is, they tell you, whatever your age is, subtract that by 220, and that's what your heart rate should be. So if you're a 40-year-old, then you should be at maxing out at 180 beats per minute. You know what I mean? And if you're exceeding that and you're in a great shape, that means that you have the heart strength of whatever you're hitting. I mean, hell, if you're hitting something of 190, then you got the heart rate of a 30-year-old and you're 40. So that's awesome. But if you're hitting 210 beats per minute and you are massively obese, then you're having a heart attack, and I recommend that you go to the hospital. But anyway, that's just a little FYI, man. Just addition and subtraction. You guys already know. Simple math. But you have to be very wise about what you're doing in reference to your analytics. And it's very important to record and journal in anything that you're doing. I mean, like I said, people recording their workouts. People are, if they got a side hustle, they're trying to track that stuff. I think it's amazing. I think one of the most prolific things to do is track your food. That's something that I do religiously. And the reason why I do that is because if I'm falling off, I can look back and know why the hell I'm falling off. A lot of people don't realize, even before these apps, and I get it, man, these apps have come to life maybe within the last 10 years. But there is no excuse for you to be in 2025 and not knowing what the hell you put in your mouth and wondering why the hell you're still a fat ass. Sorry. You can say I'm body shaming. I'm not body shaming, dude. You have no discipline. It is what it is. You got to do better. Track your food. Do what you're supposed to do. I'm not here to preserve feelings. I'm not here to hurt anybody either, but I'm here to be honest. And I know when I ended up getting diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, dude, I went from having a small frame, I'm telling you, I was 140 pounds. When I got out of the military, it was about a 170, right? Before I ended up hospitalized with diabetes, I was 215 pounds of fat ass. I was not muscle, okay? Now, I've been as high as 205, I was probably about 205, maybe about 6 years ago. Yeah, about 6 years ago. This is prior to the pandemic, right? It was about 6 years ago. And I was absolutely stout. I was solid. I was 205. I had abs. But I was lifting heavy, But this was prior, actually, this is prior to me getting back into running. Because, like, I wasn't, like I said, I stopped. Dude, when I got out of the service, I stopped, like, pretty much, not saying running completely, but I just wasn't running the way I started running about 6 years ago. But my point is that, you got to look at yourself in the mirror. You got to have a hard talk with yourself and say, you know what? There's change that needs to be made. So, what compounding effort are you going to indulge in? Are you going to keep going down the road of despair, or are you going to keep going and say, you know what? I'm stopping that road. I'm going to go toward the road of victory. Because you have to celebrate your small wins. Whether if you decide that you're like, okay, you fasted for 12 hours, or you dodged the Snickers, or you said, damn, they brought Krispy Kreme to work, and you decided to not have any. Trust me, that is a big victory because, like I said, man, down here in Georgia, you already know Krispy Kreme, by the time it gets in your mouth, it's already melted down your tongue, and, it's just a mess at that point. But, yes, because I do love me some Krispy Kreme. First Krispy Kreme I ever ate was when I was in Riverdale, Georgia. Love that. Love that. My God. Let me not go there because we're trying to promote health here. I'm over here talking about Krispy Kreme, right? But anywho, but it goes to show you that that's a victory too. You say, hey, they brought that to work, and I decided to have none of it. So that is a victory, right? But this thing, you have to remember whenever you're trying to improve yourself, this thing takes years. It doesn't take weeks, not even months. For some folks, it could take decades. A lot of people revert back to old patterns, old behavior, and it sometimes it just takes you to have some know-how and understand, like, this is not it. We got to do better. Okay? But I challenge you guys this week to pick an area in your life, whether if it's health, wealth, creativity. Like, really dedicate like 30 minutes a day for the next 30 days and watch the compound effect that occurs. You'll believe. I'm telling you, you'll be amazed. You'll be like, I can't believe that this actually happened the way it did. And it will, because you put work to it. But the thing is, do you have the safeguards to keep that work going? You have to know what are trigger points, what gets you to a point where you get into a funk. I'm not saying that you're going to completely avoid a lot of this stuff, but it's always great to be aware of just these things. It really is. But anyway, that's all my time this week, man. That's all my time. The compound effect is absolutely amazing. Just make sure you're going toward the ascension and not descending. And back in the day, if you ascended to zero, if you descended to zero, you'd just be at zero. Now you go way past zero now. You know what I mean? Like, you could be in the negatives. And it takes a while to climb out of there. And remember, you have to climb, so get a ladder. Don't get a shovel, because you keep on digging yourself into a hole. Don't want to do that. Anyway, man, that is my time for this week, but I greatly do appreciate you guys, man. Feel free to, like I said, to check out my socials. You guys already know the deal. You guys could check around the screen. Obviously, that's where I'm at. So, look, y'all, take care. Godspeed. Thank you for absolutely just spending time with me, lending me your ears, and, trying to put you guys up on something, man, because I truly do believe that health is wealth. And I say it all the time, man. I'm here to close the wealth gap for the generational poverty that people have been subjected to. Unfortunately, I had went through that. I'm glad that I was able to actually understand that I was sabotaging myself. And I hope that many of you guys can actually see it the same way. Like, man, how many times am I going to keep sabotaging myself? And you just get pissed off to a point where you're like, I'm not doing that no more. So that's really what my mission is here, man, to just give you guys me and hope that we can all change this world together. Because like I said, I'm nobody's savior, man. You got to save your own life. But Lord willing, you'll be able to snap out of it, wake up and do that. Yeah, take care, Godspeed. Peace.